Hey, how's it going? I'm just gonna be, watching basketball and eating. But you guys can ask me anything. I'm just gonna be hanging out for an hour. No games today, I don't think. Just chilling. I got some Cafe Rio. Hey Ty. Hey, I don't know. Hey, hey Dem. We're back at the grind again. I got some Cafe Rio tonight. Excited to eat. I'm freaking hungry. But yeah, ask any questions whenever you guys are ready. Only gonna be live for about an hour today because I need some rest too. No, sour cream overflowed. I got a tostada at Cafe Rio. Freaking excited, man. I love these tostadas. I swear, man, Cafe Rio is like the new Chipotle. Number 14. Yeah, let's do it. Let me open up the doc. Oh wait, I'm on the wrong unit. Explain the justification for a judicial branch that is independent from influence from the other branches using Federalist number 78 and Marbury versus Madison. So Federalist number 78 states that the only way that judges can judge fairly is if they serve long life tenures, meaning serve for life, and also that they need to be independent from the other branches' influence in order to rule on court cases fairly. And that's really the only power they have. They can't force laws to happen, right? They can't create laws. They can just decide on things only. And Marbury versus Madison in his decision states that that Judiciary Act of 1789 that forces the Supreme Court to issue a writ of mandamus to Marbury is unconstitutional because Congress can't pass an act that forces another branch to do something, right? These branches are supposed to embody the separation of powers doctrine, and so each of the powers need to be separate, and they shouldn't be able to force the others to do something. They can check each other, but they can't force each other to do something. Hope that makes sense. 1 through 21. Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah, there's some examples of some number 7. But remind you that this doesn't happen all the time, but as a default, when we look at delegate and trustee, a senator is more of a trustee because he has longer time that he's serving, and he doesn't have to worry about re-election for 6 years. While a House of Representatives member is always looking at re-election, so he's always worried about what his constituents think about him or her. And because of that, they tend to vote using the delegate model more often. Explain the 4 tasks formed by bureaucracies to carry out the responsibilities of federal government. Let me open up my slides.
Step into a world of magic and wonder with exclusive jewelry designs and sales from Disney's Aladdin. Iconic design, captivating style, and brilliance that shines through in every diamond. Your adventure awaits. Discover exclusive styles of the enchanted Disney Fine Jewelry Collection at Sales, the Diamond Store. And see Disney's Aladdin, rated PG, in theaters May 24th.
Wow, we did it. We built the fastest network for the latest iPhone.
An iPhone 10 with a retina display that makes everything.
Where is it? Oh, Unit 2. Duh. Alright, here it is. It's this slide right here. So, first task is writing and enforcing regulations. And so what this is when the bureaucracies have the ability to actually pass law and also enforce the law. In number 2's case, and for this, they, like, for example, enforcing a law is like making people like pay for stuff. It's like fining them or arresting them, things like that. Writing and enforcing is like creating the law itself, and then enforcement and fines is like the enforcing part. So like they have the powers of the legislative, executive branch. And also have powers of the judicial branch because they're able to find you guilty, and then fine you. So they have all 3 powers. We call them quasi-legislative, quasi-executive, and quasi-judicial powers. And so here's our example that's in the notes, right? The Congress passes like a law, It's called the Clean Water Act. They're trying to clean up the water, but they don't really know how to actually clean the water. So what they do is they appoint the Environmental Protection Agency, which is a bureaucracy, and they're going to carry out how to clean the water, right? And the EPA will create regulations. They'll arrest violators, right? They'll create specific laws that Congress has really no real idea about. They're just like, we want clean water, and we want clean water by this time. We'll give it this much money. And the EPA will be like, all right, well, you can't throw water bottles in the ocean anymore. That's illegal, and we'll fine you for it. And you'll have to pay this much, okay? And that's 2. 3 is to testify before Congress. Members of, or the heads of bureaucracies are experts, so they're usually called in to testify in Congress when Congress has an issue with a certain thing in one of those committee hearings. So, for example, like for the 2016 like committee hearings on Mueller and like the Trump investigation with Russia. James Comey, the head of the FBI, was, required to testify a bunch of times to, lend his expertise on what's going on and what's he been finding in the FBI. And last but not least, you have iron triangles and issue networks that help bureaucracies carry out their tasks. And so these are like interdependent relationships. Well, iron triangles are between Congress members and interest groups, and then themselves bureaucracies. And we went over the iron triangles today. Bureaucracies are usually pushed left and right. They're kind of in the middle. When an interest group wants like special favors or low regulation, they're not going to go straight to bureaucracy. What they're going to do is they're going to give electoral support and give rewards and contributions to congressional members, and then those congressional members that get elected, they're going to pressure them to regulate or bully in a sense, or pressure these bureaucracies to not regulate the industry that the interest groups are in, and so that way it comes full round, because Congress can fund. They have power of the purse. They have to fund bureaucracies, and bureaucracies don't get any funding, then they can't do their job. So they're dependent on Congress. So because they're dependent on Congress, they have to listen to Congress and favor whatever Congress wants to support these interest groups. And that way, the iron triangles help bureaucracies complete their tasks. Last one is issue networks, and this is still, it's iron triangles and issue networks for number 4. And congressmen, it's when you have a bunch of different sorts of groups work together for one single issue, and each group will do their specific tasks. Like congressmen will try to pass legislation. You and I will try to post on social media and spread the word. So let's just take like abortion, for example. We're posting about abortion. We're staging rallies. We're protesting. Congressmen are trying to pass laws. Think tanks are trying to figure out the best way to go about this. Journalists are writing articles about the issue. So we're all together in this issue network to press our issue forward with just one issue, and unite behind one issue and try to work together. Hopefully that makes sense. It was a lot. Definitely don't think that one person is going to be able to handle all of this. It's probably going to have to be split between 2, A and B. Oops.
It has that fence in the middle. It gives a nice smooth shave.
Examples of 19.
That irritation, that burn that I get is really life changing.
The morning blooms with burritos filled with fluffy eggs and breakfast classics.
Explain how Congress uses oversight function to ensure.
The $1 grilled breakfast burritos at Taco Bell's morning value menu. Value beyond belief. Sometimes
You don't have to give me like a historical example, but you give me a hypothetical example. Right. So the hypothetical example would be like, you know, if the EPA isn't doing their job, well, Congress can call a committee hearing and question them and make them explain themselves, the leaders of the EPA, what they're doing, why are they spending this much money, or something like that. Why aren't they doing this? Why aren't they doing that? That's what committee hearings are for. You know, they're trying to question them and make sure that they're doing their job. And the power of the purse is, you know, Congress funding them. Like every year, Congress has to pass the federal budget, and they can decide to either give them a lot of funding or a little bit of funding. And the power of the purse keeps these bureaucracies in check, because without money, they can't operate. Did that answer your question? Sorry.
Keep it down there. I have a system.
Keith used to be great to road trip with, but since he bought his house, are you going 45?
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of like Friday with his dad.
What a sign, huh? Terry, can you take a selfie of me?
Is anybody studying with their group mates right now?
Yep. Can you make it look like a bold mitt?
He did show us how to bundle home and auto at progressive.com and save a bunch of money.
Oh, a plaque. He later navigated northward, leaving the settlers.
Progressive can't protect you from becoming your parents, but we can protect your home and auto when you bundle with us.
Take a look at our zero fueled by Gatorade Zero with Kevin Durant. Since he made the proclamation prior to Game 3 against the Clippers in round 1, you know who I am. He has gone off. 38.3 points.
Terrible shot. Hey, Lizbeth. How you doing, Lizbeth? I just want to say, Elizabeth, that you're doing a great job so far. I know that this is your weak point, but I'm impressed with how you're taking the pressure and the stress of speaking in public so far. So good job on you. Yeah, you're doing fine. Oh my god, Jokic better jumped.
Jokic starts this off with a block right here. You're gonna see he goes underneath. Ooh, they got him big up. Well, I tell you what, this is a nice throw ahead. Then he get in there and he doesn't quit on the play. He gets himself into a run.
For the Nuggets, they will take it. They get a huge break. Could easily been called a foul and a DQ for Jokic. The 7:34 now. He's checking Cam here in the foul ball at the corner. Sensational shot by TJ McConnell. All playoff long, TJ McConnell. General silence. Crowd getting excited. He makes that first shot.
Ah. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, I think I ate too much. Oh, I'm full. All right, we'll do Dimples first. Number 11. Explain how the president's agenda can be create tension and frequent connotations in terms of presidential appointments. Well, let's open up the presidential slide. And I'm only doing this just so that you guys know where to find the answer, just in case you're confused. So when like the president appoints somebody, he's appointed them in, you know, with the intention that he wants them to, or whatever they stand for, that's what he's agreeing with, right? You can tell what the president's agenda is and what he wants to do by the people he appoints. So when Congress don't want to like go with the president's agenda, then they might not want to approve. Sorry. And they might not want to approve, you know, the people that he's appointing, right? Or people that are unqualified. But usually it's just the people that he's appointing, they don't like it. They tend to not want to, like, for example, if Democrats control the Senate, they would not want to approve of such appointments that don't make sense to their own agenda, and they don't want to push the president's agenda if they don't like what the president's doing. So the example of this is Betsy DeVos, Trump's Secretary of State, Secretary of Education, sorry, and she wasn't very well liked. The President Trump wanted to push for more charter schools and schools for profit. And so that's why he appointed Betsy DeVos, because she's an advocate for it, but the Senate really wasn't for her. She wasn't very popular. And so it had taken like a 50-50 vote, and then Mike Pence, the vice president, had to actually step in and break the tie in order for her to be approved. So there's like an example of contention, why like appointing cabinet members and officials are so contentious. So what was the question? Was it so contentious, right? Yeah, it's so tense, and there's always confrontations between the two branches over this issue, right? Because the Senate always has to provide advice and consent for every single appointment. Let's go over 21. Explain how the judicial branch can check the power of bureaucracies. So anytime bureaucracies are kind of like out of control, they're creating unjust regulations and finding people that, you know, maybe they feel is unjust. And if, let's say, you get sued, or not sued, you get fined by, you know, one of the bureaucracies in our national government, and you don't agree with it, you can actually bring it to court, bring suit, as they call it, to court. But it wouldn't be in like a regular court, like, you know, a district court or a state court or even the Supreme Court. You would go to the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, and you would appeal their fine there. And that's like one of the special courts that we have in the United States that is a federal court. And so the example of this is Nipplegate, or the 2004 scandal on the Super Bowl with Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake. Viacom, which is CBS's parent company, was was fined by the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, and CBS felt that it was not fair, so they appealed to the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, and they agreed with CBS, so they lifted the fine from them, and they didn't have to pay the $550,000 fine issued by the FCC. I don't know if that makes sense. Get your questions in quick, as much as you can, because I'm not going to be on for very long today. No problem, guys. No problem. Keep them coming. Oh, my neck's killing me. What the heck? Baker versus Carr. So this one's about equal proportions in congressional districts. It is not about racial gerrymandering. So remember, before Baker, there were unequal populations, and the courts didn't really address that. The congressional districts were absurdly in unfair proportions, right? You would have like some districts with like only 5,000 people in it, and they would elect one member to Congress, and then there would be some districts with 35,000 people that live in there, and they would vote also for one Congress member. And so the facts of the case is that, well, the districts have been unchanged since 1901. You actually had, and rural, what that means is like the countryside. Rural districts had 1/3 of the population of Tennessee. But they elected 2/3 of the congressmen in Tennessee, while most of the population lived in the urban areas, like the city areas, but they elected only 1/3 of the congressmen. So you can see the frustrations, because more people live in the cities than in the countryside, yet the countryside elects more congressmen than they do. And so you have a minority of people electing the majority of representatives, and that doesn't really represent the state as a whole. So they brought it to court, and pretty much what the court said was courts can't intervene in redistricting. Matter was just justiciable, which that's what it means. Matter is justiciable, means the courts can't intervene. And they said that it violates the 14th Amendment's Equal Protections Clause, because then the districts in Tennessee don't have equal representation. And this establishes like the notion of one person, one vote. So from then on, after Baker versus Carr, every single congressional district must be equal in population size, like how many people are in each district, right? If there's 5,000 people in this congressional district, then there must be 5,000 people in this congressional district, and they will both elect one representative from each. All right. Hope that makes sense. Oh, I didn't even see this question that you posed, Sienna. Yeah, pretty much. That's what I said. Hey, mind going over number 18? What if I was like, I do mind? What you gonna do about that? Sienna, just rewind it. You can play back the YouTube videos. No, you're okay. Explain how the legislative and executive branch gives discretionary authority and rulemaking authority to bureaucracies to carry out policies. So discretionary authority is an extremely weird concept to learn, but it's not that difficult, I promise. It's just Congress and the president kind of handing off some authority, some of their power to these bureaucracies, right? And bureaucracies cover not only agencies, but like executive departments as well. So if we just look at Congress first, discretionary authority on rulemaking is that they give up, some of their lawmaking power to these agencies that are in the bureaucracy, and they allow them to make the regulations because they don't really know what the exact regulations are because they're not experts in this field. And so the Congress, the example is like, hey, Congress passes an act that you can't show, obscene things on TV or nudity on TV, and then the Federal Communications Commission will actually lay out the laws or the regulations that tell you exactly what you can and cannot show on TV. Like, you can't say the word, bitch more than one time on a TV show. That's be something that the FCC would, specifically create. While Congress would create more like general and broad laws, FCC would regulate it and fine people for it. Discretionary authority and implementation is more of like enforcement, right? Remember, the president is the chief enforcer. He enforces the law, but he can decide to either enforce it strictly or enforce it loosely, right? He's the enforcer. But, also his executive departments are also in charge of enforcing, right? He doesn't enforce, if someone is, smoking weed on the streets. That would be like the police or the DEA or the FBI or something like that. And so he would tell people in his bureaucracy that do the law enforcement, hey, I don't want you guys to enforce this as strictly. And then those executive departments will decide on how loosely they want to enforce, smoking marijuana on the streets, right? Is up to them. But he gives them like a general directive. Hey, don't enforce this too strictly, and then they will decide on how they want to do it, and they'll follow his directive. Hopefully that makes sense for you.
14 offensive rebounds for the Nuggets in the fourth quarter.
Oh, it's not like YouTube prevents cussing, dude. There's much worse things you can watch on the internet. How did you guys feel after the third day of oral exams? Number 16, explain different ways the executive and legislative branch can limit the Supreme Court's power. And so this is the one that we didn't actually get to go over class, but I kind of left that slide at the end. So this is a good question. And here it is, right? There are checks from the executive branch, so it's like, let me blow this up for you guys. Appointing judicial nominees, obviously, because the president has the power to appoint and nominate justices of the court. And he can also not enforce judicial decisions, right? Let's say in 1953, right, Brown versus Board of Education was decided. Brown versus Board of Education is decided. Segregation is now illegal, but who's going to actually enforce that decision? The president, right? What if he doesn't want to enforce it? What if he's like, nah, I'm not gonna do anything? There's no one that's gonna force the president to do so. So that's one check on the judicial branch. The other one is a legislative check, and this is advice and consent, which is questioning and approving judges. We saw Brett Kavanaugh go through that process. But sometimes Congress will even do something known as senatorial courtesy, which is when they actually recommend judges or justices to the president to appoint, and saying, hey, if you recommend this or appoint this judge, we're probably going to approve of him 100%. And then they'll also pass legislation that might counteract a Supreme Court's decision. And the surefire way to actually do it, which is not passing legislation, but it would they would draft or I want to say propose amendments, and hopefully that they get ratified by the state legislatures from each state. And so some notable amendments that have actually countered some Supreme Court decisions, like the Dred Scott decision, was countered by the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, because Dred Scott, remember, that was all about, you know, if a slave goes to like a free state. Wait. It's not Dred Scott. This should say, ooh, big one, big mistake. This should say Plessy decision, right? Because Plessy was out separate but equal, and they tried to counteract that with the 14th Amendment, and that didn't really work. And then the court unwilling to change women's rights to vote, right? That led to the 19th Amendment, which gave the women the right to vote. So if the Supreme Court doesn't want to do something, Congress can step in and propose amendments. If the Supreme Court does something that the Congress doesn't like, they'll try to pass an amendment or pass some type of law that will either discourage or counteract the Supreme Court's common law court decisions. Let me know if that makes sense. It was a little bit of a messy, explanation. Kind of understand? Well, make sure you're able to say it out loud from memory. Now we'll go for another, 15 minutes, and I'm gonna get off, because I'm tired too, guys. I'm tired too. I know you guys are tired, but you're young and strong. I'm old. I don't have much energy anymore. I also have a pounding headache. But I'll keep going. I'll suffer through just for you guys.
So the timeout was, was called right after that collision. They're on the floor before anything's happening. As you can see, Turner, though, Turner does run out there. So, well, it could be a story for Game 3 after all the reviews are in. Denver wants the ball advance. James Caper is coming over.
Goodbye, Denver. You lose.
That one last. Yeah, I think they just come together here. Clearly, Harris touched it last, but the call on the floor was Denver ball.
Yeah. No, they'll switch that up really quick.
Saw McCollum's hand come in there.
McCollum's way behind the play. This is clearly off of. McCollum's hand does get in a little bit, but it looked like it was off. From my angle, it looked like Harris.
You saw it, Michael Smith with the initial call on the floor with Denver ball. You got to go right back to that contact. I don't think McCollum was quite there with the reach at that look.
No, I agree.
And they will overrule it. It'll be Portland ball.
Okay, now Portland's got to get into their best free throw shooting, and you're going to see a trap, and they're trying to go for a deflection in the
Like 9 more minutes, guys. I'm gonna get off. I'm so tired.
before you waste too much time. You got to extend this game, but man, it's tough business when you're fouling Damian Lillard, Seth Curry, or CJ McCollum. Those guys are tremendous free throw shooters. See if you can force the ball into Amino or someone else, but they have their best free throw shooters out there.
Well, Portland was second best in free throw percentage this year in the NBA, and once the alignment is set up, Terry Stotts takes a timeout. Portland with the ball. They're up 5, 24.8 remaining in this game 2.
Excuse me, can you buy some booze for my friends and I? Yo. You guys want to party like rock stars? Welcome to my bar.
The heck, going to sleep already? That's so early.
How did she get our numbers? There's something off about Mom. Are you guys fighting for something?
Why is my son spending time at your house?
Probably something wrong with me.
Car is crazy. Let's get this party turned up.
Rated R. Sit courtside from anywhere. Download the NBA on TNT VR.
Each team with a timeout. Both teams in the penalty. It is Portland ball. They choose to advance it. 24.8 seconds remain. A 5-point lead. All the good free throw shooters are out there.
All right.
And it is going to be
Have a good night, Sienna.
foul. Clock ticks here. And there is the foul now. And that'll send
Good luck. I'm sure you'll do awesome tomorrow.
Rodney is an 88% free throw shooter.
It's good to see the
And a chance to
it's good to see the whole crew with you today.
take some both, make it
They didn't leave you alone. They came back for you today. I go to sleep at 1. That's alright, you're young. You got plenty of energy.
Rodney Hood makes it a 6-point game. Evan Turner coming back on for Ennis Cantor. And this is the free throw that could send them to the exits here. Rodney Hood at the line tonight, 2 out of 3.
No problem. 5 more minutes, guys. 5 more minutes, and I'm gonna get off. Look through the study guide and ask yourself, what's something I'm hazy on? Portland won. Portland won, guys. If anyone's watching basketball, Portland won. What do I watch now? I'll be right back. Hopefully by now everyone is very comfortable in speaking in public. Hopefully that doesn't like get you guys super stressed anymore. How have you been, guys? You guys still stressed? I wonder if like Lizbeth is still stressed out speaking in public. She seemed pretty comfortable today. Hopefully this is good practice for everybody. Yeah, you seem a little bit more comfortable today. Yeah, you're doing good. Easier than before, right? It's like getting to like almost like it's just I'm just speaking in front of people. No biggie. No biggie. No biggie. Ooh, right about to get off, Liz. All right, cutting it close, cutting it close. Last question of the night. Number tres. Explain how the unique rules of the House and Senate impact policy making. Ooh, good question. Okay, there's a lot to this question. No, there's not that much, but there's some. Okay, so think about what's unique to the House, and think about what's unique to the Senate. Okay. So what's unique to the House is that you have a Speaker of the House, which is the most powerful leader, and he's the actual leader that's actually listed in the Constitution. A leader, official leader. What am I saying? And he has the power to direct where bills go, and so it gives him a lot of power. And what committees get each bill. Also, in the House of Representatives, there is a lot of pigeonholing that's going on, but only in the House can you use a discharge petition with 218 votes to get it out of pigeonhole, meaning getting buried by a committee, right? When a committee doesn't want Congress to rule. Hey Robert, how you doing? To rule. I'm just about to get off, Robert. Sorry, I'm only going to do this for an hour. So if you have any questions, Robert, right now would be the time to ask. What was I saying? Anytime that a bill is being buried in a committee, pigeonhole, meaning like they don't want it to go out to the floor for voting, you have to use a discharge petition to blast it out. And usually like pigeonhole is almost like killing it, right? You stick it in the pigeonhole and you never let that bill see the light of day. If Congress can't vote on it, if it never comes out of committee, then your bill is almost as good as toast, unless you can get a discharge petition, which is 218 votes out of the 435. And what's special about that number 218 is that's a majority in the House. Last unique rule in the House of Representatives is something called the House Rules Committee. And so what the House Rules Committee does, and this is the most powerful committee in Congress, in Congress and in the House, but only exists in the House, is that they can set rules to a bill, right? And if they don't give a bill a rule, that can effectively kill the bill, right? If there's no date, time, how long a bill can be debated for, then a bill won't see the floor. And so that makes them a very, very powerful committee in Congress. And so those things that I just mentioned are all just unique to the House of Representatives. Now, what's unique about the Senate is, in the Senate, you have unlimited debate, which means that anytime someone stands up to speak, no one can take the floor away from them unless they give the floor up. And so what that's led to is something known as filibuster. And filibuster is when a senator or a senators who team up just talk for as long as possible, and they effectively kill the bill because people don't want to hear this guy talk 24 hours about how he likes peaches so much, or read a Twilight book from start to finish. That's pretty much what filibustering is, because you have unlimited rules of debate in the Senate. People can talk until they relinquish the floor, and they can choose who to relinquish the floor to. So if you're having like a 3-person filibuster, I can talk for 6 hours, then I can pass the baton to you, Lisbeth, and then you can talk about whatever you want, and effectively you kill the bill, or you make people so mad that they just leave, and the bill never gets debated or voted upon. Now, to counteract filibuster, you have something known as cloture, which requires 60 votes in the Senate. And a cloture effectively puts a date and time, and how much debate time until the vote must occur. And so that stops a filibuster. It counteracts a filibuster. Hey, that was a lot. Let me know if that made sense. And after that, I'm leaving. I think I'm done, guys. I'm sorry. I have a headache, so I was only gonna do some about an hour's worth of tutoring, and we just hit what, an hour and 4 minutes, so I think I'm done. Sorry, Bobby. Sorry, Robert. I would love to stay and help you out, but maybe watch the VOD. You should be able to watch this video. I think we asked about 5 to 8 questions, somewhere around there, and I answered them. So if you want to check those out later, you could. I hope you guys all the best. I know this is hard right now, and I don't mean to torture you guys. To me, this is like tough love. I'm trying to get you guys to where we need to be to do well in the AP exam, and this is like the way that I think that that it's possible, right? You have to go through the fire before you can become successful. It's like in animes when they have to go through that training, that difficult training, before they can defeat some villain. Like in Dragon Ball Z, it was like Goku going into the hyperbolic time chamber and training and going through all that in order for him to beat Cell. So all those things, we're just training. We're getting prepared. We have to go through the fire. This is Hell Week. This is boot camp before we hit the AP exam. And Saturday is going to be the practice exam. So if you haven't signed up for the Saturday AP Institute, make sure you do, because I think it's going to be really helpful for you guys, just to do a whole full practice exam for AP, see how difficult it is, and then talk about some of the things that, talk about each question and see why you got things wrong, why you didn't get things wrong. And then Monday, we're just going to freaking beast that AP exam, and we're going to get that, 75% mark. I'm so confident in us, because you guys are, stressed right now, but I think at this point, we've kind of accepted that, we can probably do this for the next 2 days and be okay with it. At least I've seen it on your face, and I've seen some amazing answers today. People really stepped up, overcoming their weaknesses. Remember what we were like on Monday? We're nothing like that anymore. We're starting to get more confident. We're not shaking. We're not nervous or anything like that. I think we're getting really comfortable in our skin. So just keep up the good work, guys, and we're gonna get there. All right. I'm signing off. I'll see you guys later. Good luck tomorrow. And if you need help, come in during lunch, and I'll be happy to help you guys. Good night, everybody.